side camera's the one that's going to get me on my gut.
You're on.
Perfect. Which camera am I on?
Right here.
We live? Everybody watching?
3, 2, 1. You're on Insta.
All right, guys. I think we're going live. Let Devin walk back to this computer, and we'll for sure decide if we're going live. We're talking about... we have 4 camera angles tonight. We're talking about what that does to my physique. So we're trying to judge that. But, guys, give us 1 second. We'll get spooled up, and we'll be live. Devin's pulling it up right now. Again, our executive producer here at the Nate Zelinsky / Devin Menino Outdoor Show. Devin's our producer here. How are we looking?
You're good.
All right, guys, we're live. Welcome. I'm Nate Zelinsky, guys. Appreciate you watching. Every week we do this. We've been doing it since May. We appreciate you guys coming, listening, following. And as always, our goal is to make everybody a more educated hunter. Again, we promote education, promote scouting, promote the concept of taking a do-it-yourself style hunt, taking public land, low draw rate type units, and really making the most of every tag to be successful for your goals as a hunter, whether that's your first animal, harvesting an animal every year, or taking a trophy of a lifetime. So there's a lot of different avenues in which we're preaching that education. But regardless, we're hoping you're taking that education, sharing it with your friends, and we're hoping that you're going to become successful utilizing this information. So that's kind of the basis of the show. Guys, last week on Wednesday at Bowtech Archery, they released what quite possibly could be one of the most incredible bows of all time. There's no doubt over the next year or so you're going to be hearing a lot about the Bowtech Realm. We released 2 bows with the Realm series. There's the Realm and the Realm X, basically a 30-inch axle-to-axle bow, and then the Realm X being a 33-1/4-inch axle-to-axle bow. Guys, these things are absolutely incredible. So again, absolutely amazing. They launched that last week. So if you're watching this, again, most of you, or a good portion of you, are going to be watching from the Bowtech site, so you know we launched that. If not, you could be watching from the a variety of other sites: Diamond Archery, Black Gold sites, Ripcord, Tight Spot Quivers, Bass Pro Shops of Denver, Excalibur, Tightline Outdoors, as well as Nate Zelinsky. So you could be watching from a variety of that, so you might have missed that bow launch. So if you did miss that bow launch last week, it was all about the Realm X, this bow right here. They sent me my Realm X about 2 weeks ago. I had about a week playing with it in the field, getting it dialed in, getting it tuned. It's an arrow shooting machine. I'm breaking arrows with it. Everybody knows I'm not exactly the most amazing shot. I'm more of a hunter than I am a hardcore target archer. And with this bow, I literally am breaking arrows. It's incredible. I've never seen anything like it. I was able to take this bow in the field on a South Dakota hunt, which we're going to show you clips for here in just a minute. And I'll tell you what, talk about having to make the most of some very tight shots. I'm glad that I had this bow with me for a couple of different reasons. But guys, the cool things about this bow, just real quick, just so you know, we've got dual locking limb pockets. So guys, eliminating vibration, making sure that cam timing tuning is going to be more intact than ever, but more than anything, just eliminating that vibration. So again, everything is staying in tune, in check a little better. Guys, we got a new vibration system here. It's also built for balance. So you can take this right here and put it in multiple places on the bow, which is great to really fine-tune that balance. Really, really awesome. Brace height, 6.5. Just overall feel, it is dramatically lighter than a lot of the other bows have been in the series. So really excited about that. And then you also have the option of a performance or comfort setting. So you're in a hunting situation where you might have to draw for a long period of time. You're in a situation where you want to walk around at full draw. That comfort setting is pretty incredible to have that leeway of holding that bow back there forever. As where the performance setting is going to take you down a little bit on that let off, and it's going to make that valley really short. So you're gonna shoot much faster. It's a little harder to walk around and hold that draw for a long period of time on that performance setting, but you do get those incredible speeds and everything out of that setting. So a variety of reasons why you have the option of the performance versus the comfort, but absolutely incredible bow. So if you have not shot it, make sure you get down to a Bowtech dealer as soon as possible, and make sure you take a couple arrows or take a couple shots with the Realm or the Realm X. I promise you it's going to be absolutely incredible and you're going to love it. Guys, last week we did the bow launch on Wednesday, and then Director of Digital Strategies here at Bowtech, Tim Glom, him and I jumped in the truck, and we took off to South Dakota to hunt mule mule deer. Guys, this was an incredible experience. We're hunting just outside of Rapid City, basically hunting bluffs and little canyon lands in South Dakota, and we saw a ton of deer, and it was almost hard making decisions of which deer to chase. A lot of different bucks. Every buck had different qualities. You have wide bucks with deep forks. You have, real tight bucks with trash and stickers and just a million different deer. And more than anything, there was so many deer, it was almost hard to hunt them. You would literally pick a deer and start pursuing that animal, and as you're pursuing that animal, you would run into more deer, and you'd bump them, and they would run and scare this deer, and that deer would scare this deer, and you'd have the domino effect on almost literally every hunt. But we ended up hunting Thursday evening, all day Friday, and Saturday mornings. We had 4 good hunts in South Dakota. We were successful after that 4th hunt. So every hunt, I was close to drawing my bow if I didn't draw my bow. So a lot of activity in South Dakota. Now, guys, we're going to show you a couple clips from that hunt, just because it was a great time, and again, it was the a live hunt with the Realm bow. So again, if you did not see that, you can jump back and watch that video. But we did 100% a live hunt on Facebook with this bow, and I can tell you real quick, as the hunter on this shoot, there's not a whole lot more nerve-wracking than being 100% live. I mean, no edits, no fallbacks, no erasing. 100% live to make that shot. To do that, confidence is key, and more so than confidence in myself, I had confidence in my equipment, and I had confidence in the Realm. Guys, again, shooting this bow, I know that even myself, I'm shooting inch groups at any distance in which I'm capable, so within 60, 80 yards, I'm shooting incredible groups. That's what builds you that confidence to take shots live on camera. So it was exciting. I hope you enjoyed that hunt. We're going to talk about some of the clips from that right now. So if you're on Instagram right now, real quick, this happens every week. Unfortunately, Instagram does not let us play the clips on that platform. So everything on Instagram is going to have to jump over to watch this stuff on either bowtecharchery.com or the Bowtech Facebook page. So again, if you're on Instagram right now and you want to watch these clips, now's your chance. Jump over, go to the Bowtech Facebook page, or again, bowtecharchery.com. But Dad, let's start with one of these clips of us. This is one of the first day, or this is Saturday morning. So last Saturday morning scouting. So we're down here looking at a watering hole, and literally every one of these bluffs has deer on it. So we're sitting at a high point in these little canyons that you can see right there, and looking down, and there's just dozens of these little fingers, and they all have deer on it. This buck here, I believe, is a 4x5, really cool looking deer. They have whitetails and mule deer on this ranch. And this particular buck here, you can see he's got a little crossover. So he's a mule deer, but he's got some crossover in kind of the whitetail blood in him. So his rack's wrapping around a little bit. That very first time is really tight wrapping up. Cool looking animals. We saw quite a bit of that kind of crossover. I wouldn't say it's a 50-50 blend, but it's definitely a blend of 20-80, if you would kind of guess that of mixing. And most of it's going to be the stronger side of the mule deer with just a little bit of whitetail kind of mixed in there. But really cool buck. Now that buck there we decided to pass. Got pretty close to him, got ideas, wanted to chase him. But shortly after watching that buck, we saw a buck with dramatically deeper tines, a little wider, just a little bit more mature buck as far as age, and that's the buck that we really wanted to go for. But we probably watched this buck for probably 20 minutes before making the decision to pursue a different animal. But that's literally what most of the hunt is. It's just high grass. You got some cedar trees kind of on different north hills, then grass in between it, and everything fingering down basically into the next draw or the next canyon. So just draw after canyon, just kind of going down. So the general goal was to start early in the morning, glass as many deer as possible while they're out feeding, and then watch them when they go to bed. When they go to bed, you're actually making the option to make that stock once they're actually bedded. So like this buck here, we're just watching, staring at that buck, trying to decide what's going on with it. And once that buck's bedded, if that would have been a buck we were choosing to chase after, we'd be right back at it. So again, you saw that buck there. It's a buck we passed, but just long fingers and just glassing. I mean, all morning. Get there at first light, glass through the entire canyons. I think probably the best day we probably saw 15 different deer, and just watching them all and just saying, hey, if that's a buck we're going to pursue, let's put it to bed, and then we'll wait till our wind's right, and then we'll make that approach that way. So that last day, literally 5 minutes after that clip you just saw, we're glassing even further. You originally saw that pond. About a half mile past that pond, we saw a buck coming over the top of a drainage. Nice deep forks, wider, got a little cheater off one side, great eye guard, just a really good looking deer, mature deer. We watched that buck. And it's funny, he actually walked up. He had a 3x3 with him. The 3x3 bedded under a cedar tree, and this buck went just around the corner, and we assumed he bedded in a tree. So he made a giant stalk around. We're actually getting ready to walk out on that finger, and as we're walking out on that finger, we see this buck on the side of the finger 100% out in the open. I mean, we are wide open. The buck is wide open, and he's laying in the tall grass, and all you can basically see is his antlers sticking up out of the grass. And we're like 150 yards away from this deer in the wide open. And we look up with our binos, we pull it up, and the buck is literally dozing off. He's awake, he looks around, then he dozes off. Then he comes up, looks around, dozes off. So we dropped down to our knees and crawled backwards like 20 yards, got out of the picture frame, made a giant stalk around, used that little finger that he was on as cover, and came right over the top. Right on top of this deer. So when he came over the top, I believe the buck was 35, 37 yards. Very close, but unfortunately, all I see is rack. So I'm literally on top here. Tim's behind me with the camera. Got a good friend Brandon showing us the ranch right next to us. And we're standing here, Brandon and I, and all we see is the rack of this deer in the grass. And you can tell if you make too much noise or we talk, you can tell you can kind of hear something, and he would just turn. You just see that rack turn, and you see him look the other way. And most of the time, he was semi-pointed at us, but all you could see is the rack. You couldn't see eyes, couldn't see anything vital. And it makes it tough because, you always wonder to yourself, hey, how long do I wait it out? Do I sit here and wait 4 hours until he gets up because it's hot sun and adjusts, gets up to drink? Or do we manually try to stand him up to make the most of it? And I can say throughout the course of the week, everything that we had done the last 3 hunts in South Dakota, all the deer that we had approached in their beds went from laying to running in a second. None of these deer did the traditional mule deer stand up, look around, and take off. Every deer we had seen Thursday night and all day Friday had literally taken off in a full-blown panic. So they went from laying down, all you see is antlers sticking up out of the grass, and the second they had fear, they sprung to their feet and they took off running. And that was our fear here, is we're like, man, if we scare him, more than likely he's going to spring up and take off running. So we're literally standing here forever trying to make the decision of what to do with this animal. But we're going to throw to a clip right now as this unfolds. So, Devin, let's throw this clip, and I'm going to kind of walk you through it. So, we're literally sitting here. The buck's bedded 35 yards away. And I look at Brandon, and I say, hey, let's throw something and see if we can wake him up. And he goes, there's no rocks around here. What are we going to throw? So I reach into my pocket. Only thing I can find is a lighter. So I pull out a Bic lighter that I carry when hunting for safety, hand it to Brandon. I say, hey, man, when I'm drawing, throw that lighter. So I draw the bow. He throws the lighter, probably 20 yards, lands right in front of the buck. And all the buck does is kind of shake his antlers and kind of look down. Doesn't stand up, doesn't move his body, just kind of leans forward a little bit and looks where the lighter hit on the ground right in front of him. Totally not what we were expecting. We thought that lighter would land. We thought he would jump to his feet to see what it was and thought we would get the shot. So I held it draw for a little bit just to make sure that he didn't stand up, a couple seconds after throwing that lighter. And unfortunately, it was not the case. Threw the lighter. He looked for a second and went right back to kind of his snoozing self. Again, the buck wasn't asleep, but you could tell he was dozing off. He would look around for a little bit and kind of put his head down. And then every strong gust of wind, every major break in a stick, he would kind of pop up, look around, and then go back down. He would just continue to do this back and forth. And it was rough. So I took the bow down, sat for what seemed another 5 minutes, trying to decide what to do. And then finally I told myself, hey, I don't know if he's going to stand up. I don't know if the wind's going to get to us. I don't know if he's going to stand up looking for a change of bedding, a change of water. We didn't know what to do, but I could tell you that we were all, 3 guys are 35 yards from this buck. And I knew that we didn't have the patience to wait all day. So I eventually turned around, kind of told Brandon, I said, hey, it's go time. The buck is starting to get a little anxious every so often the more we're talking, because again, we're talking, trying to have a game plan. You could tell the buck knew something was kind of fishy, but not enough to make him totally panic. So again, as we're talking, the buck's kind of fidgeting around, and I said, it's go time. So I drew back, and our goal was to kind of stomp our feet, make some noise in the grass and hopefully have this buck stand up. So you can see in the video right here, I just hit full draw. Our goal is to kind of stomp our feet, make some noise in the grass, and assuming the buck is going to stand right up. We make noise in the grass, and he spins his antlers, and he's looking at us, but he does not stand. Luckily for us, the grass is just tall enough to where it's just fading out his vision. So that buck's looking at us. You can see his antlers are up, but he can't quite make noise or make concept of what we are. He knows something's making noise, but he doesn't even care about it. So we're walking now a little louder. We're stomping our feet. We're doing everything we can. And you can almost see the buck doing that motion of a dog, kind of turning his head sideways, back and forth. I can see them big mule deer ears going back and forth. You can tell he knows something's wrong. He knows something's up, but he's not standing up to investigate to see what's happening. And it's hard. You know, I'm going into a minute of full draw right here. Thank goodness I have the comfort setting. So again, 80% let off. I'm able to just hold that bow very comfortably. And I'm just looking through the peep, looking at the sight, and just holding it right where that deer is going to stand up. So I know where his antlers are. I know where his neck's going down. I'm literally holding that pin right where this deer is going to be if he stands up. One point like right now, I lower it down. I'm still in full draw. I just put it down on my leg just to get a little bit of comfort there, and then I pull back up. And at this point in time, I said, we're going for it. No more stomping the feet. I said, let's whistle. Let's yell if we have to. So at this point, we're starting to do the little clicking sounds, doing the whistles, doing everything, anything we can to make noise. And you can start to see the buck starting to get a little more cautious. His antlers are starting to move a little bit more. His ears are starting to flap just a little bit more. We're definitely starting to get curiosity. And at that point in time, I'm really starting to get comfortable, peep sight, on sight, dialed in. And I'm telling myself the second he stands up and shows me anything that is vital, I'm going to shoot. I kind of trained myself to shoot very quick for these type matters. So I whistle a little bit louder. That buck literally gets up on his knees and just barely peeks up out of the grass to see what we are. The second I could see that shoulder and see vitals, I put it right in front of that shoulder, right through heart and liver, or heart and lung. And the buck stood up after the arrow was already blown through him or blown into him. He runs about 55, 60 yards. And absolutely tips over. Incredible experience at that point in time. So again, guys, just it's all about shooting fast. So you just watch that clip, and literally I'm sitting there going on, I believe it's 2 minutes and 50 seconds of full draw. And I'm just staring at that peep, and I'm finally like, I'm flat out going to whistle at him. So I'm looking down, and again, I just follow those antlers down. So when he stands, that's where it's going to be. And buck stands up, puts that shoulder right to me. I slide it over right off that shoulder blade. And the deer is literally still sitting down. All he did was kind of put himself up almost on his knees, almost like a dog would sit. And I immediately took the shot. It was the opportunity that I had. Thank goodness I absolutely hammered him on little high footage right there. Again, he ran 55 yards and tumbled over. And you can see, here's the photos of immediately after that shot. You can see that sticker coming off the right side. Great deep forks. Just a really cool buck. So you can see the side image. Huge forks on that deer right there. So, guys, it was absolutely an incredible hunt right there. Here's the official arrow that's remaining that shot it right there. So you can see that. I'm going to jump back here, Devin. Perfect. You see that? That's the half that's remaining. One thing we're talking about here, guys, before we move on, a lot of people are asking this. A lot of people that watch that live feed, after I shot him, we were talking about double cresting on the arrow. So right after he shot, I said, hey, I know that my first piece of cresting was gone. And a lot of people are like, what are you talking about? How do you know how well you hit him? Well, that buck stood up. I took my shot. And the second I shot it right in front of that shoulder to come out on the double lung side on the opposite, when that buck turned to run, all I could see was a little bit of white. I could see 3, 4, 5 inches of white cresting. Cresting is this tape on my arrow. All I could see was from about this point up. If I shoot an animal and I see 2 pieces of white running away from me, I know where my penetration is. But I know if I get that double penetration, I have at least 17 inches of arrow buried inside that animal. If I start getting up to this area, I start getting to 21 inches of arrow buried in that animal. So by having that quick measurement. When that buck turned to run and I know that that arrow right there was crested, I know I have enough penetration to clear through the entire carcass or the entire void of an animal, especially a deer. You get to an elk, you're going to have to start getting towards the second cresting. But on a deer like that, a mule deer, the first cresting's buried, I know my arrow has penetrated all the way through the vitals on that animal. So I have a quick reference of, yes, that is a great hit, or hey, let's give this animal a couple hours just because I know I didn't get great penetration. So on that animal, we knew exactly the penetration we had because of that double cresting. We talked about that in the video, so if you saw that and missed it, that's what we're talking about, double cresting our arrows to make the most of every shot that we have in the field. Saw that cresting, and we knew he was down, and walked immediately downhill, and he was gone.
Let's give a shout out to Travis and Travis Baez.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Travis and you guys did an amazing job. Brandon and Traven, you guys all did an amazing job there at the ranch. Again, unbelievable food, lodging, and obviously some absolutely incredible deer. They are chasing blacktails right now on Kodiak Island. I don't know if they're on the boat yet or if they're on shore. I was trying to think there if they're listening or not. But they're either on a boat or on shore. But they are hunting blacktails on Kodiak right now with Jim Burnsworth. So hopefully they get 3 tags each. Hopefully they're being successful on that hunt.
And if people want to watch more live hunts, they can text GO LIVE to 77453.
Perfect. So guys, right there from Devin, you want to watch more live hunts. I know I have a hunt coming up here that we're going to be doing live as well. But again, if you want to get all the action, make sure you text GO LIVE to 77453. Again, GO LIVE to 77453. Now, speaking of that, real quick, I want to talk about this deer. Throw to that deer that I'm hunting right now. So, guys, right now, I got a good friend in town. We're actually going to talk to my buddy in town here in just a second, Robert Blosser. But with that, I have another deer tag coming up here. We can start hunting right now. More than likely, we'll probably spend some time in the field right around Thanksgiving. But this is a buck right here that I have on trail cams. This is from early mid-October, but this buck is still alive. He's still running around. And I would say right now, he is on the top of my hit list for another live hunt. So right now, comment. Who wants to watch me chase that buck live on camera? Anyone? Make sure you comment. If you want to see me chasing that buck, just like that South Dakota hunt, going it live, taking your input, you helping me make decisions in the field, comment on here. If you want to see that, say we want to watch it. I would love to get your input on that. Now, guys, speaking of that, we got a good friend in town. He's actually here on an elk hunt, but he is from Wisconsin. He is a major player in the hunting world as well as the fishing world. So we're bringing a good friend of mine, Robert Blosser. How you doing, Bobby?
Hey, what's happening,
I
Nate?
appreciate you joining me.
Good to see you.
Absolutely. So, guys, Robert here. He's from Poinet, Wisconsin. He is a professional angler by trade, but you spend as much time in the field hunting as about anybody.
Yeah, I try to anyway. A little jealous of your exploits, but yes, chasing big game is definitely a passion.
Absolutely. So we're gonna bring in a couple questions here. I want to talk to you, especially coming from the whitetail side. You hunt a lot in the Midwest. You keep up on all the rut conditions, post-rut conditions, the cameras. You keep up on animals. Very similar to what we do. It's all about the scouting, hunting, preparation. I want to talk about, so our animals are in the rut. Obviously, as these deer go into the rut, you experience a variety of things. So a lot of people are watching this, whether you're in Colorado and your mule deers are just on the beginning phase of the rut, or you're in a whitetail situation where they're hardcore rutting or even post-rutting.
Sure. There's
There's a lot of different things that happen in each of these activities. The one thing I want to talk about is especially what these guys experience in Illinois, and it's a fairly common thing that I think a lot of people miss, is the daytime activity of a rutting deer. Oof. Everybody is out there an hour before light, sitting in their stand, freezing to death, and they hunt for that first 2 hours, and they're like, all right, we saw some deer, but it wasn't great. Let's go. The daytime stuff can be better sometimes in the low light periods.
And I definitely made that mistake early in my career too. And I think what transpires a lot is, you've got your pre-rut, your rut, and your post-rut.
Yep.
But what happens is in that pre-rut, you get a lot of chasing, a lot of seeking. They're just kind of,
feeling out
some territories. But once they get after it, when it's go time, they go hard.
Full-blown run.
And they go hard all night long. And what transpires is they go hard all night, and they rest in the morning. And then come like that 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. when
frisky.
Everybody is at home having lunch, they're back on their feet because they just got done resting. And then once they're done with that, they lay back down again that evening, and then as soon as nightfall comes, they're at it again.
So night's the main period, but the low light period in which everybody's hunting a lot of times can be a rest period.
Yes,
which makes sense because they're definitely going to take advantage of the nighttime.
Yep.
Rest for a couple hours, daytime, because we saw activity on the cameras, and like where Devin and Tim were hunting, it was literally like a 10 to 2.
Yeah,
major activity.
I mean, in the Midwest for us this year, we actually had a full moon happening during our full-blown rut.
Okay.
So those deer were absolutely going crazy at night. So that midday was definitely a key time to be in the stand.
I mean, you see that everything. Like our elk definitely rut at that first period of time. Everybody's like, man, why are the elk going to bed so early? They rut all night. They rut into the morning, but then they have to rest. I mean, these animals can only go so hard without water, without rest before they have to. And, they take advantage of it. When it's time to rest, it's time to rest. So I think that's huge because so many of us, especially as we're getting ready to hunt rut conditions, where you're at or if you're maybe just coming out of it, but something to think about. Because, that's where a trail camera can really come into play. But if a trail camera doesn't, just 1 or 2 days, spend the full day in the stand. It'll shock you what you can see.
And if you can't sit out that full day, because that's a tough sit. Let's be honest. To hunt sun up to sundown in a tree is pretty tough to do. But force yourself to sleep in one morning and give that midday a shot. Okay. Do it once, do it twice. If it works for you, great. If not, go back to hunting your normal routines. But I'm telling you, roll the dice and give that a couple chances. Yeah,
I love it. Now, the other thing I want to talk to you about, especially on the whitetail side, so our mule deer, by the time most of our hunts are done here in Colorado, we hunt peak rut major, and then our post rut, our animals go independent. Okay. So, our bucks separate from the does completely. They go independent, and they almost, I wouldn't say nocturnal, but they definitely spend a lot of time in tighter canyons. They spend a lot of times tucked away. They avoid the crowds for the most part. What's the major plays for you where you're seeing Wisconsin, the Midwest, in a post-rut condition? Is it food? Is it water? Is it nocturnal? What are these deer doing?
Obviously, they just got done running a marathon. So they're tired, and they need to eat. So we start to focus on food sources right away. Okay. Post-rut, you're still going to see a little bit of chasing, but food sources is definitely where you want to be. Okay. And yes, it's going to transpire back to those first light, last light type situations. But the food's definitely where you want to concentrate.
What are we looking for? Food. So I say that because Colorado, we're like, hey, we look for grass. We got grass, but we don't have a whole lot of options. We go way east, we might hit some corn. But most of our whitetail hunters are listening. You have multiple options.
Yeah, obviously we're looking at corn.
Okay.
Just for example, this year was a pretty wet year for us. And I know right now there is a ton of standing corn still in Wisconsin. Okay. So
trying to dry? That's the
trying to dry, exactly, before the farmers are going to harvest it. That, right now, if I was in the Midwest, our bow season is just tailing off. Our rifle starts this Saturday. I would be finding a non-cut cornfield and praying to God it gets cut the day before rifle starts, because that would be like your ace in the hole to hunt right now. Yep. Yes, for sure.
Okay, so standing corn. That's it. Food. Post-rut for these whitetails, it's all about food. Same thing for mule deer. It's all about building those patterns. Scouting, education is what's going to lead to that. But again, so many people miss the spiner details. You know what I mean? You just miss the edge of it. Again, seeking out an uncut cornfield can make the difference of night and day of being successful. Hunting midday can be a huge thing, night and day successful. Like us with these mule deer, chasing them on their feet was tough. We had to let them bed. Once they bedded, we could get right on them. So there's a lot of things with that. So guys, hopefully that's going to be good. Ask us some questions if you have some, especially for Bobby, who is on top of the whitetail game. Now, I'm going to throw you on the spot here, and we're going to talk about something with the bow. I'm shooting the brand new Realm. Now, again, myself being a major hunter, I don't ever claim to be the hardcore target guy. You do a lot of shooting.
Sure.
Hunting, you shoot some range stuff inside. Mm-hmm. You do a lot of different things, and in my opinion, you're the most knowledgeable arrow person that I've ever met. Whatever that leads to. Okay?
I don't know how to take that, but I'll take it as a compliment.
All I know is everybody I know that I deal with arrows, I get a basic arrow that shoots good, and then this guy builds me my arrows, and I shoot amazing. So you've helped me over the years. Story. I actually lost an elk. You're not supposed to talk about it, right? You wound an animal. It's voodoo. I'm not allowed to say that I wounded an animal. We're hunters. We never do that. It happens. So I had a situation of shooting a big bull elk a couple years ago. We lost the camera there, Devin.
Yeah, you're good.
Okay, perfect. So I lost an animal a couple years ago where literally I had a quartering away bull elk. Big giant bull, quartering away. very confident in the shot. I shot and hit a rear rib. So I'm shooting at a quartering away animal. I did not have enough mass to my arrow. I didn't have enough weight. When I hit that rib, instead of punching through and double lunging that bull and having an extremely, devastating shot, I hit that rib and my arrow actually glanced. I didn't have enough push power. Arrow glanced. I ended up shooting that animal through the guts and I did not recover that animal. It's one of my first losses. It was absolutely devastating. It was awful. But literally having an arrow that was heavy enough to shoot out of the bow. I wasn't dry firing. An arrow that shot good on the range but didn't have enough killing power to follow through. And I don't think anybody ever thinks about that.
Sure.
As long as it shoots good, people are like, it's good.
Yep.
And I needed more push power. So that's when I came to you and I'm like, hey, man, I don't ever want this to happen again. I need to shoot, more weight, but still have, the stiffness and everything that I'm looking for in an arrow. So as you build my arrows, per se, what do you look for in an arrow? I mean, what heavy, light, and then the biggest thing I want to talk about is you float arrows. What is that?
Well, let's back up a little bit. Obviously, when you're going to build a set of arrows, you need to know, first off, what you're going to build that arrow for. Are you going to build it for target shooting? Are you going to build it for whitetail hunting? Are you going to build it for big game hunting? Are you going to build it for shooting a Cape buffalo in Africa?
Perfect.
Because everything's completely different, just like our rifle calibers.
Yep.
So let's just take an elk arrow, for example. My theory, 400 grains is the least amount you want in that arrow. You want that kinetic energy.
It's all about the energy at contact.
Correct. That's the kinetic energy you want. So what you need to do is look at the bow. Are we looking at a high performance cam or are we looking at, something a little more moderate? Okay. And that's going to determine the spine of the arrow we need, the stiffness of the arrow basically. And then we need to look at what type of broadhead you want to shoot.
Yep.
And that's going to determine, do you want to shoot a mechanical or do you want to shoot a fixed broadhead?
Yep.
And that actually plays into the spine of the arrow as well.
Perfect. It's too soft, broadheads can open like a fixed, correct?
You just want to have that good balance. It's all about maintaining that balance. And the other thing is front of center. You want your arrow to weigh more in the front, and that's why our broadheads are weighted 100 grains, 125 grains, whatever it may be. But when we start talking Western hunting, and we start talking ranges beyond 40 yards, most whitetail hunters, 40 yards is an extreme long shot for them.
Absolutely.
We need our arrows to come out of that bow and come off that rest the same way each and every time. Okay? And that's where floating an arrow becomes important.
Okay.
So when we look at the build of an arrow, it's a carbon arrow, and it's a wrap. It's a carbon wrap. So there is a seam on this arrow. Okay. When you take this arrow, no veins, no insert, no knock.
So just plain carbon.
Cut to length. We cap the ends.
Okay.
And we lay them in a tub of water. Bathtub, Rubbermaid tub, whatever it may be.
Whatever you got.
Let them sit overnight. Give them a good 12 hours. And what will happen is that seam is actually the heavy point of that arrow, and that'll rotate.
No kidding.
So all of your arrows will sit the same way in that water.
In the morning.
And when you come in, you just mark that arrow, and then when you go to fletch them, doesn't matter how you fletch them, as long as you fletch them all the same with that seam coming off the rest the same each and every time. When that arrow comes off, it flexes.
Absolutely. It flexes a lot if you do slow motion shooting.
It does this a lot. So you want that arrow to do this the same way each and every time to be accurate at those long ranges. And that's what's going to carry you to that 60, 80, potentially 100-yard shot. As long as you put in the time to practice, that's still going to be an accurate shot for you.
It's just crazy. So, I got to tell a story. So, the guy's telling me about floating his arrows, right? We're here in Colorado, and I'm like, of course I float my arrows, Bobby. You're like, hey, you float your arrows. I'm like, oh, yeah. I floated my arrows last night. We're good. So, we're calling in elk. It's your first time out here elk hunting. We're sitting on this ridge, and we're calling bulls. There's like 2 or 3 bulls up this hill. And I'm looking at them, and I'm ranging them. I see you range it, and I'm like, how far are they? And you're like, what, 88 yards or 88 or 84 yards? And I'm like, man, that's far. And he's like, I'm just going to shoot him. And I'm like, yeah, you're just going to shoot him. So I'm like playing around with things, getting ready to do a call set, trying to figure out how we're going to get closer. And I look up, and he's in full draw, and toof. And I'm like, what? What is he doing? Almost 90 yards? And I see this bull kind of jump a little bit and take off, and I'm like, fletching's probably scared him as it whizzed by him. And I'm literally like, Bobby, what are you doing? And I look up, and the bull goes, and total pass-through, zipped him, flawlessly at 88 yards. And that's when all of a sudden I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, maybe I shouldn't make fun of the floating the arrows. Ever since then, you've built me my arrows. Yes. I love it just for the fact that we talk about what I'm looking for out of the arrow. Hey, I'm not looking for speed. I want kinetic energy. Right. I want to make sure the next time I have an animal quartering away and I hit that rib, I want that rib to explode, and I want my arrow to keep sailing the exact direction it was originally flying.
You know, and
that's even, where it's huge. I mean,
even in the whitetails, you know, if you pull that shot just a little bit and hit a front shoulder, whitetail, mule deer, whatever it may be, if you have that kinetic energy,
you can push right through.
You're going to push through. You're not going to get a pass through by any means, but you're going to get enough vital to be a lethal shot.
Mule deer I shot in South Dakota. I shot right on the front edge of that, blew through all the bone, and had to kill. If you have too light of an arrow, I mean, not only can your arrow blow up, but you just don't get penetration, and I mean, it can be damaging for all aspects of it. So, guys, again, arrows can be huge, and we're saying that because, again, there's a lot of people out there right now, today, tomorrow, ordering their new realm. So while you're ordering this new realm, start fresh. You know, you got a new bow, build the right arrow, and I think everybody, more importantly, has the same thing. They're like, I've been shooting the same gold tip 300, velocity, whatever. We do that. You know, it's like a bullet for a gun, like you said. People just get in the habit of it, and every bow shoots different specs, different speeds.
Correct.
Especially the realm. You might be shooting a lot faster than you normally used to with this new bow. So with that said, it's time for new arrows. The same arrow does not, you know, jump to every single bow made. You get a new bow, check your speeds, check your power, check everything to really match that arrow that's shooting out of that bow.
You know, you take all the time to set that bow up, and you buy quality products, and too many people just buy off-the-shelf arrows.
Absolutely.
And they're doing themselves a disservice because they've got an A1 piece of equipment, but they're putting subpar accessories with it. And this right here, this is the most important piece of the equation. Because this right here is what's going to get the job done for you.
No, it's huge, guys. So think about that, guys. Again, arrows are everything. Go into your local archery shop. Go to your pro shop. Talk to them. Learn about it. If nothing else, even if you don't buy new arrows, learn about arrows. I know that you started talking about it, and I'm like, I had no clue. I was really clueless about it. There's a lot to it. So make sure you think about that. Now, guys, we're going to end tonight's session. I got one last thing. So Robert's been out here going on 6, 7 years, 8 years hunting with me out here in Colorado. Close friends. The first time you came out that same hunt, I got a kick out of watching you glass. We're talking about this because I've spent literally the last 112 days, 130 days of my life behind glass, watching the big bull Ricky, watching these bucks in South Dakota, watching the bull your brother shot a couple weeks ago. I literally lived behind glass finding these animals, but what day? 2 nights ago? 2 nights ago, I believe, I'm out glassing. It was still third rifle. So Sunday, 2 nights ago, it was third rifle. We're out looking for the animals that you're going to be hunting tomorrow. And I'm literally looking at deer standing right next to the road. I'm glassing them. And I watch these hunters drive right by. I mean, the deer are 35 feet from the road. And these hunters drive by and they stop by me, you know, a quarter mile later. I'm up high looking down on them. And they're like, hey, man, have you seen any deer? I'm like, what are you looking for? A big buck? They're like, any buck. And I'm watching a 4x4 with 10 does. One guy's a buck tag, one guy's a doe tag. And I didn't have the heart to be like, you drove 30 feet by them because they just couldn't see them. But with that said, optics are huge. There's a lot of people, I think, that we talked about today that will hunt a week in the western United States, not have anything and be upset, be grumpy.
Sure.
And so many of them probably were in front of animals and they missed it. Tell me about your first glassing experience and where you're at now.
How about my first 10 glassing experiences? I couldn't find an animal out here to save my life. I'm going to be completely honest.
I mean, you're used to sitting in a tree stand.
Yeah, I couldn't find an elk. I couldn't find a mule deer. I couldn't see nothing. And these guys were just making fun of me. They're like,
I'll give you $100 if you can tell me where any of the 15
what do you
cows
see?
are.
I'm like, I don't see anything. They're like, well, there's like 13 deer out there. You don't see a single one? Oh, well, hang on. Are you sure? No, I don't see any. So it actually took me probably 3 years of hunting out here.
10 days in a row,
to finally train my eyes and my brain to what I'm looking for. Yeah. And it's just simply time behind the glass. And once you get it, now they start to stand out.
Yep.
But quality optics definitely help because junk won't help you one bit.
Oh, no. Clear optics.
But it's definitely, just like you said, you spend countless hours behind glass. Yep. And it just took me time to really train my brain what I was looking for. You know, I'm used to looking for an ear flicking 3 trees in, not a giant elk standing
mile away,
1,500 yards away. Right. So it's a whole different game, but it can definitely be done. You know,
definitely.
Yes, for sure.
And that's huge. So again, we're saying that, we have a rifle tag starting this week. So tomorrow starts 4th rifle combined for Colorado. There's still some Utah hunts going on, Montana hunts, Wyoming hunts, and then a lot of the Eastern Plains hunts. Like I have a deer tag that's starting now. In the Eastern Plains, we're literally looking for one antler sticking up out of the grass or a tail in some different woods. So a lot of things come down to glassing, especially in the Western United States. So again, that's just your quick reminder that I bet you anything, 80% of the hunters miss one animal or 10 animals almost on every trip out there. So, we learn it through sheep hunting, you learn it through elk and mule deer and everything else, but spending time behind glass and literally double checking, triple checking, putting more emphasis on just saying, hey, they're there, I got to find them, is going to lead to a lot more opportunities at the end of the day.
I think the biggest thing that helped me was instead of looking at an area, I had to focus on one small part and look at each and every bush. Everybody says grit it out, and I thought I was gritting it out. Yeah. But I really had to make myself go from bush to bush to bush. And as I did that, then I started to get faster at what I was looking at. But it really, I had to slow it way down. And what you would glass 3 times, I would get halfway through. So that's
now you're
what
seeing
helped
him.
Me. Right.
I actually trusted him for the first time this year. He went out glassing by himself, and he told me what he saw, and I was like, I believe he's probably saw him,
Probably because I sent you pictures.
Yeah, you sent me pictures. That helped. All right, Devin, we got one question here, guys. We're going to wrap it up.
Yep, couple things. People definitely want to see the live hunt, so they're going to text 77453.
Again, text GO LIVE to 77453. We'll probably, the second this bull dies from him, we'll be out in the woods in that mule deer hunt. If not, I'll be out there Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday of next week, so make sure you stay tuned for that. That's a big deer.
Absolutely. Great feedback. People want to see that. Josh Montague, buddy of ours, we know him. His wife, I believe, is Cricket. Is that right?
Yep.
She is in central Kansas right now. Bucks seem to be mostly nocturnal, but definitely rutting. Weather is very warm. What should she be doing right now to seal the deal?
A couple different options. One, trying to pattern a particular animal. I think so many people get caught up in hunting multiple animals, and the second you get in the gamut of it, it gets tough. So trying to solidify 1 or 2 animals to where you can pinpoint a particular trail, a very specific pattern that one animal is doing. So instead of slightly missing a variety of animals, trying to pick one animal, build a quick pattern on that one animal can be huge. Checking the midday thing can be huge, and then in a last ditch effort, a lot of times we were doing, in the Eastern Plains experience I've had, moving blinds and getting much closer than you ever feel comfortable. One of the last times I was out there in the Eastern Plains, we had these deer feeding in cornfields, and they would stay in the corn during the day just because it was so well hidden, and everybody's hunting the exteriors.
Sure.
And I literally found a path going to the middle of the corn. I went in there and stomped out an area big enough for my blind, and I had literally 3 shooting lanes and 3 rows of corn as wide as the blind. And I found out where those bucks were feeding. I put a blind 20 feet from where they were daily feeding in the corn, and I'm in the middle of a cornfield, looking at nothing but stalks of corn. But they continued with their pattern. They came in, and we got them. Nice. So thinking outside the box, but trying to solidify 1 or 2 animals, I think will take you further than anything else. So instead of looking at a gamut of them, try to find 1 or 2 animals, build a somewhat of a pattern on those, and try to execute on that pattern. What do you think?
When you, I'm going to assume they've got trail cameras out because they're thinking they're nocturnal. That's pretty tough. For me as a whitetail hunter, if I see a couple of my target bucks go pretty much straight nocturnal, but there's still some rutting activity going on, that at least gives me some hope that they're still on their feet, they're still searching, and you're just praying for that slip up. It's time in the stand. Yep. It may be midday, it may be first light, it may be last light, but that's just going to come down to being in the right place when he makes a mistake.
Yep, definitely. And I think there's some weather coming into the week. So, Cricket, if you're watching, you got a couple days, but I think you might have some relief weather at the end of the day or end of this week. I think we have a little bit of storm coming tomorrow, slight cold front. Then Friday, hopefully the same storms that are hitting the Rocky Mountain regions will hit Kansas, and hopefully that little break will help you on. And again, a lot of times even post-rut, the second that a good portion of those does come out of rut, those bucks will try to go in for one last swing.
Sure.
And try to gather does on that second swing of it. So again, 3-4 days after the rut, you see just a couple day activity. The bucks just kind of doing a second round just to make sure everything has been bred. So sometimes that second round they can get a little silly then. But biggest thing is I would try to pick one animal, build a pattern on that animal, and it's a whole lot easier building a pattern on one animal than trying to learn 15, 20 animals. Again, same type of thing. If you aim small, you hit small, you hit that target. You try to cast that big net, you're going to miss a lot of things. So keep that in mind. Hopefully it helps you out. Guys, again, you want to see the live hunts, text GO LIVE to 77453. Huge thanks to all of our partners. Huge thanks to Bowtech Archery for letting us go live on their page and provide this entire platform. Huge thanks to Diamond Archery, Black Gold Sights, Ripcord Rest, Tight Spot Quivers, Bass Pro Shops at Denver, Excalibur, Tightline Outdoors, and Nate Zelinsky, guys. We really appreciate all of that.
Chef Collins has a Thanksgiving special this Saturday morning right here.
That sounds fantastic. Guys, Chef Collins has got a Thanksgiving special Saturday morning. Guys, you got to watch it. If you have the rutted up, gnarliest buck in the woods, Chef Collins can make it literally like the best meal you've ever had in your life. So make sure, stay tuned. It is about a Thanksgiving meal prep with Chef Collins Saturday morning. Again, text GO LIVE to 77453. And make sure you stay tuned next week to this show, as always, every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Pacific. Guys, we'll see you soon, and hopefully put some animals down shortly. Good luck to everybody in the field. We'll see you soon.
Take care, everyone.